Hello everyone, it's Carrie here from the Female Entrepreneur Association and welcome to another weekly dose of inspiration to build a successful business. So today we are talking all about one of my favourite topics, and that is branding, how to build a successful brand. It's something that every single one of us has to do, yet so many of us struggle with this. So today we are joined by the lovely Susie Istvan, who is the founder of socialsusiedesigns.com, and she is going to be sharing how we can all step up our branding and make it amazing. So Susie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is obviously one of my favorite topics too.
I feel like it's so important in business. I know so many people think they're building a business, but we're not. We're all building a brand. And I think this is where it all gets confusing because there's so many different things to think about. And I think so many people have different ideas as to what a brand actually is and what it means. So I was thinking this is a good place to start. I think we should start first by talking about what we mean when we say brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of people, like you said, think immediately of their logo or fonts and colors and sort of the visual elements of their visual brand. But really, branding is sort of this overarching umbrella that encases everything that your business does, everything that you specialize in, everyone you interact with, and also how you interact with them. So I think, to your point, it's really confusing. People don't always know where to start. And so I recommend to people when they're ready to sort of step up their brand, instead of rushing to a graphic designer and going straight for designing a new logo, there's actually some better places that you can dive into first so that you can start to figure out how to really make an impactful brand that isn't just a pretty logo.
Okay, so I think that's really important. I think you're right. I think so many people do get caught up in thinking about the visual elements to a brand and forgetting about everything else. So what are the first things I suppose people need to think about when thinking about stepping up their brand?
Yeah, the first thing I'd love to have people do, and this is how I work with my clients before we get anywhere near design work, is we do this kind of brand strategy work. And the first thing that is really fun to do is to figure out what you love doing, what you bring to the table, what you would do all day long if you had the time, what you feel like you get amazing results for your clients for and you really enjoy it. You feel you're uniquely qualified to do. You know, some of us have these incredible life experiences we bring into our businesses, and so we're able to bring something to the table that another professional isn't able to. So really doing some examination there and maybe just letting yourself put 10 minutes on a timer and put pen to paper and just write everything that comes to mind that you really feel is a skill that you can bring to your clients. And starting there, start with what makes you different, what's sort of your onlyness, that thing that sets you apart from other businesses, and really have some fun exploring there and diving deep, because you might kind of uncover, I do this all the time, but it really drains me, and I wish people would ask me to do this more often. And that can be where you start to really make some great inroads with having a more effective brand, is by exploring that piece that you know you're great at, and maybe not everyone knows that. That's a great place to start to concentrate.
I think that's really important, because I think so often we forget to think about that stuff, and we forget to kind of dig deep within ourselves to think about, I like that, what was the word you used? Onlyness. Is that what you said?
Yes. So I worked a lot with Tera Gentili this summer, who is this incredible business strategist, and I was an apprentice of hers. And she has this method of people discovering their onlyness, which is really what makes you unique and what lights you up. And you don't have to get too cute about it. You don't have to really, some people get so concerned about finding their niche and really digging, carving out this spot so that they're so different from everyone. And the reality is you really don't have to worry about anyone else. You sort of look into you and what you do really, really well. And if you can start to make your brand be more focused on those areas, you're immediately starting from a more powerful place.
Yeah. So once people have done that work or that investigation into figuring out what is that thing that they bring to the table, that unique perspective, I suppose their beliefs and their values and all of that stuff that they then can integrate into it, what do they need to do next?
Yeah, so equally important, but I usually, so we have everyone do kind of their own focus on you for a little while. And then I have people set that aside and start to focus on your audience and who you're going to work with. And that sounds really, really obvious, but again, kind of newbie beginner brands tend to make the mistake of deciding before they get started who they're going to work with. And then they actually get into that pool of people and realize, oh, I'm not getting results for these people, or these people are really draining, or this isn't actually the audience I want to work with. Or they make the mistake of just working with everybody under the sun, saying yes to every project that comes along, right? And being overextending themselves. And so when you're ready to step up your brand, it's time to really do some work into who do I get great results for? Who do I love working with? Who, when I look at my calendar, am I so excited, is on my list every day? And it doesn't have to be necessarily people that you want to move in with. It doesn't have to be your new best friends. But sometimes, I've had clients who are time management specialists, and they work really, really well with moms. And I've had, because of they know how to work around children's schedule, not just because they've arbitrarily decided the mom's market looks like a good one. I've had clients who are nutritionists who really get great results from working with cancer patients because they have a certain area of expertise that does well with this population, versus just kind of arbitrarily deciding, oh, that looks like a fun group to work with.
Yeah.
So letting yourself sort of first do your inspection into your own, what you're bringing to the table, and then really taking a hard look at who your audience is and what their needs are. What are they going through every day? What are they doing when they're not sitting around staring at your website waiting to buy from you? Because most of the time that's not what your audience is doing. And then it's sort of this matching game of making those two pieces fit together. And my favorite way to do that is to sort of think through your ideal client, or the audience you really want to serve, and figuring out what it is they need. What jobs do they need filled in their life? Do they need someone to do this one particular task? And sort of just list all of those out, and then sort of comparing all of those things your audience really, really needs with what it is you do really, really well, and start to figure out where those can come together and which of those needs you're really qualified to fill. And that's where you can start developing your offerings and that really important part of your brand. But I think a lot of people, and they jump right into, this is what I'm going to sell, and here's my logo, and they feel really disconnected. So if they can do that earlier work, they're going to feel more deeply rooted in their brand, and it can't help but be more authentic, because it is.
Yeah, I think that's what the thing is, that word disconnected. I think a lot of people do feel that because they don't dig deep, or perhaps they don't even realize or don't think to do it, because they think that they just have to create this offering and then this, like, how it's going to be designed, and so they don't. And I think that's the thing, when you are feeling disconnected, that's when your customers or your audience feel disconnected from you. So by digging deep and like getting that connection back, I think that's when that's when brands like really shine, because then the people or their perfect audience then can connect with it and then align with it and think, oh my god, this is so perfect for me. That's what I always think when I see a brand that I absolutely love. It just makes me feel so good, and it feels so right, because I align with their what they're trying to achieve and who they are and what they're about. And I think that's when you get all that in line, it makes such a powerful difference, doesn't it?
It does, and it's so, usually those brands that you're describing are, there are people who don't connect with them at all, and there are people who probably hate them, and there's probably people, you want to be a little bit polarizing. You don't have to be controversial, but if you're trying to appeal to everyone, then those people that really would connect with you if you were just, kind of having your more authentic self out there, you're going to miss them by trying to be too vanilla and to appeal to everyone. So
that's a really good point. And I think as well, because so many people are afraid to decide who their audience really is, because they're worried that they'll decide and then all of a sudden they've lost a whole group of people that could potentially be customers. So they think that they're going to they're gonna make things harder on themselves if they just get really focused. But life becomes so much easier when it's focused, and you know exactly who you're talking to, and you know how you can put stuff out there, or even from a design perspective, how you can make things look that's going to appeal to them specifically. And
exactly. And you, sorry, you got me excited. I jumped in. No, and that's really that's when the visual stuff happens. That's when you can start working on your logo or your color choices or what your website looks like is to your point. Then you know who you're talking to. You know who you want all that to appeal to. You know how you want to present yourself. And that's when all of the other branding decisions, things like price point for your offering and your tone that you sort of speak to your audience with, are you going to be their best girlfriend, or are you going to be their professor? Are you going to be, that kick in the pants they need, or are you sort of the calming force in their life? It's hard to just arbitrarily pick that stuff out of a hat, or sort of say, well, I love purple, so my site will be purple. and to your brilliant point, that it's so much easier if you know who you're talking to. All of those decisions really become much, much simpler.
Yeah. I love it. I could talk about branding all day long. I think it's so important in business, and I think that's the thing. That's what that's what I love when you visit a brand's website, or you see a brand in a shop that you love. It just kind of lights you up and makes you feel so excited. And I think it's that reason why some people buy certain brands over another, or some people will work with one person over working with another person, because that brand, they connect, and it's kind of to do with the brand and that you're creating around yourself. So it's so important. So thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful tips. Make sure you go over and check out Susie's website. I will leave all the links and details on the blog post, because I'm sure she's got more fabulous branding tips over on there. And branding is so important for all of us. And I'd also love to hear what you think about this. Is branding something that you struggle with? Do you find, or have you ever been in a situation where you just struggle to pick who your audience actually is, because you want to pick everyone, because then you've got a wide audience, but then you're struggling to actually communicate with any one person? I'd love to hear your experience on this. I think it's amazing when we can all chat about how our own experience on things and how we do things, because then we can help each other to learn and grow in business, and that's what this is all about. So head over to the blog and leave a comment, and if you love this video and you're not subscribed, then make sure you subscribe. You can do so over on the blog. Just click on the image that's at the end of this post and subscribe, and we will send you an email every week with the latest video in. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it inspiring and helpful. Go out there and build an amazing brand. I want to see lots of amazing brands, and I will see you next week for another dose of inspiration.